Like literally, they're like, "What are you doing? Are you delivering this pizza for a billionaire or something?"
This is Zain. Besides from telling me an amazing pizza story, he has a Turo, hostel, and cafe business that he all has tied in together like a nice little ecosystem. Oh wait, one more thing. This is also the first podcast where I interview someone who I had no prior relationship with and knowing, so this is also the step that I want to take the podcast when I first initially started it. So I hope you guys enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of Uncut Stories. Today I'm joined by
Zain Zahid.
Tell me a bit about yourself, Zain. By the way, I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii, and I ran across you by renting one of your cars.
You did? Yeah.
But first, tell me a bit more about yourself and your story, and then
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I would say as far as Hawaii, I moved here about 6 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But before then, I had come to Hawaii about 7 different times before I decided to actually pull the trigger. And to be honest, I was in student loan debt, I had credit card bills, I had all these other excuses. And, I never could find the time to pull the trigger. And there really isn't a perfect time to do anything in life,
Mm-hmm.
So as I was working for Delta Airlines at the time in corporate revenue and project management, I started burning out, which is something that's never happened to me before. I was in the corporate office, I'd done the job for about 5+ years, and I was about to get the golden handcuffs, which means 4 weeks of paid vacation, free flights, which I've already had, and then a pretty good bump in salary that I don't think I would have been able to say no to. So I knew this promotion was right around the corner, and as I was in a team meeting, I was speaking to a fellow colleague with the name Bob. His name is Bob, very kind guy, but he's this older gentleman who's been with the company for 30+ years, right? It's pretty amazing to do. Yeah, it's a very dedicated, loyal employee.
My father, 20+ years.
Right? And then he tells you all sorts of amazing stories. But in this instant, Bob was bragging about being with the company for 30+ years. And I've never had a panic attack in my life, but my life literally flashed before my eyes. And in an instant, I saw myself 30 years in the future, glasses, no hair at the time. I did have hair at the time, but I don't now. No hair, glasses, or gray hair, and, just being in that same position for all those years with the same company. And I had a bit of a panic attack, and I was like, whoa, I've never experienced anything like this before. I didn't even know what anxiety was, right? I had no idea. I had to Google the word anxiety because I'm like, what is this?
You just had a chill life for the majority
I had a pretty chill life, gone through a lot. It's more of an immigrant lifestyle and come up. I had a pretty good life. And then working at Delta was amazing, but in that moment, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing something more with my life. I feel like I'm not supposed to be working for someone else for the rest of my life. And at that moment, I went to go see my boss at the time. His name is Caleb. Caleb is an amazing human being who actually lived in Hawaii, who told me about Hawaii, and he's one of the reasons why I'm here in Hawaii. And he was like, yeah, I used to live in Hawaii. I grew up, stayed in Hawaii Kai. He has a beautiful family. He's like, but Zain, you're one of our most valued employees, right? You've been here for all this time. You're a hard worker. You barely take any time off. You barely take any vacation time. And then he's like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And I was like, Caleb, this is how I feel. This is what happened. I've never experienced this before, but I don't think I could do this anymore, man. So I think at this point, I felt like I had to leave the company in that instant, right? But Caleb did me a solid, and he was like, hey, man, why don't you take a break, take some time off, go travel. Take a month, take 2 months, whatever you want to do.
Just go see the world.
Yeah, go see the world, which I've done. I'm used to traveling and hopping on flights, but never for a longer period of time like that. So I took some time. I took about a month off, and I went around the world. So I flew from Dallas, Texas, to Los Angeles, stayed in Los Angeles for a little bit, hung out in Venice Beach, St. Monica, went over to Honolulu, which I didn't live here at the time, but I was like, wow, Hawaii's pretty amazing. There's something different about this place. I stopped by for a wedding, actually, of a friend who lives here. And I met this gentleman on a flight going to Japan a different time. So stopped by for a quick wedding, said hello, and then on my way to Japan. In Japan, I met another amazing friend that I used to do judo with in the University of Texas at Arlington, in Dallas, Texas, or Arlington, Texas. And I caught up with him, and like, you know, just meeting and rekindling all these amazing relationships with all these amazing people that I've known throughout my life. From Japan, I went to Singapore. From Singapore, I went to Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam. And then from there, I went to Europe. Went all the way around. So I went from there to Turkey. And then from Turkey, I did Germany. I've been to Germany a few times. I did Prague, and then I kind of made my way around, and I flew out of Belgium back to the East Coast, to New York, and then New York back. So I didn't get to do like everything for a long period of time, but just kind of stopped. Wherever the wind took me is where I kind of went, and just, you know, when you make friends along your travels, as you may know, you meet some amazing people, and I've stayed in hostels this entire time as well. So I flew for free. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to get business class as an employee. If there's a seat available, you get the seat. So I would plan my trips around business class, and I would kind of strategically hop on. Yeah. So I was like, okay, which country am I going to now? Okay, Switzerland's got one seat in coach. Looks like I'm going to Turkey. I've got a chance of getting 5. There's 5 seats that are open in business, so I'm going to go to Turkey, you know? So things of that sort. And yeah, man, after that, and that journey, learned a lot, came back to the States, felt really refreshed, talked to my buddy Caleb, and I was like, hey, Caleb, feeling good so far. But then 2 weeks later, I felt the same. So at that moment, I knew that there was a calling. I knew that I had to do something. And, you know, I think a lot of people don't really wake up the way that I did. I think there's usually some type of urgent factor or something that's going to be like a wake-up call, right? So it's like a near-death experience, a crazy breakup, a close family member passing away, or a Bob that comes into your life and has you kind of has you kind of wake up. And talking to different people, it kind of made me realize that. And yeah, so I decided to leave Delta, but then not leave Delta as far as the corporate position that I was in, and go into in-flight. So I was going to go and become a pilot.
That's what my girlfriend wants to do at the moment. She's stuck between either being a therapist or being a pilot, which is two
very different
two
things.
Very different, like,
so ask her what she really wants out of life. You know, like being a therapist is completely different. Yeah, you're going to be mostly probably in one location, unless she opens up more of like an online type of practice where she can have multiple clients, which I've seen happen before. But being a pilot, man, that's good for you. I think, you know. See, that's what selfishly,
I'm like, I want you to be a pilot. That way I can be like,
fly for
babe,
free.
Do you want to go to this? She's like, sure.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, the lifestyle was so crazy working at Delta. Like, I would, on my days off, on my weekends, I would literally get on a flight to New York, first flight out, last flight back, right? Mm-hmm. So for nothing, right? Getting first class there, eating breakfast in first class. I land, I would only spend like $20 for the entire day. That's less than the amount I would spend on dinner in Dallas, Texas, you know, having a nice dinner. So first flight out, last flight back, I would go there, land in usually it was LaGuardia, take a city bus, get off at Jackson Heights, and then take the train to Manhattan. From Manhattan, you can walk down to Lower Manhattan, get on the Staten Island ferry for $1, and then I got a $1 pizza as well. Just hop on the ferry, and you get a free view, basically, or a $1 view of the Statue of Liberty on your right. You see the Brooklyn Bridge on the way back when you're coming back, and it's just like, dude, Central Park, come back, and then I would even bring a pizza back for my friends sometimes, or I would go for White Castle, because we didn't have one in Texas, you know?
It's all the Northeast.
Yeah, it's all in the Northeast. So the pizza, I actually almost got into some trouble because of the pizza. So I got this really, really good pizza spot in New York. It's called Artichoke Pizza. It's still there. Really amazing pizza.
I want to say I've been there before.
Dude, highly recommend it.
My mom's from New York. So
oh, she is?
Yeah.
Oh, you got to talk to her about it. But delicious pizza. And I brought back a pizza for my buddies. And I'm coming back. I'm going through security. Now, I know, I work for the airline. I've been there for a couple of years. And I'm literally having my pizza go through the x-ray machine, right? And the TSA agent, just imagine that, right? No, I didn't have any bags, like literally no bags, because...
You just had the pizza box?
I just had the pizza box.
TSA?
Like literally, they're like, what are you doing? Are you delivering this pizza for a billionaire or something? I'm like, no, man. You should have said yes. This is my pizza, and I'm going to eat a slice or two on the flight. And the one guy, he was hungry, you could tell, and he wanted my pizza. So the TSA guy was like, hey, man, You can't take that through. It's like, it's got too much tomato sauce. And I was like, but it's got less than 3.8 liquid ounces of tomato sauce, right? I already did the math. I worked for an airline. Here's my badge, and I've done this many times before. So I'm
That's
taking
what I love
pizza.
about it, is that you did the math.
Exactly. No, I've done it. And then he's like, you're right. I just wanted a slice. And I was like, well, when you get off, it's waiting for you. No, I'm not going to give him a slice. I'm like, I got to take this back home, right? So get on the flight. Everyone's looking at me because they're like, who
You just have a
in the
pizza
world
box.
brings a pizza,
No luggage,
on a
just-
flight? No luggage, just a pizza. It looks a little sketchy, I'm not going to lie. And I have a beard, right? So it's just delivering a pizza. So I took it home, took it to my friends, and then, we watched a movie. We had a great time, and we ate some pizza from New York. And that's like I said, that lifestyle, man, it's really hard to replicate anywhere, right? So if your girlfriend can work for the airline, I highly recommend it. Hop over for...
I'm in the car right now. I'm gonna, hey,
Yeah.
pilot, now.
Yeah. Let me hop on the flight, let's go to LA, let's get some Korean food in Koreatown, right? It's like, I used to do that all the time. So it's crazy how small the world can become when you work for an airline or when you have access to flights in general. But like I said, that was one of the most difficult decisions for me, was to depart from Delta, which I'll get to in just a moment. So when I came, actually transferring with any big company, especially an airline, to Honolulu is near impossible. Like, it's just very difficult because everyone higher seniority wants to be here, right?
Yeah.
So no matter what position it is, and I was still pretty junior. I only had 5 years with the company at the time. And when I transferred, I put in the transfer for a part-time employee at the airport for baggage and ramp handling. So I can work and keep my seniority with the company of 5 years, which, by the way, if you become an airline pilot, it gets cut in half.
Oh.
So I would still only have 2.5 years, but that gives you a lot of scheduling power, even at a young employee coming in. So 2.5 years is still better than coming in at 0. So I chose to do that instead of leave the company and then come back as a pilot. I got accepted to the Propel program at Delta at the time. And I basically had a scholarship to go to George's Aviation here in the Honolulu airport, and I started going and working at Delta part-time. Now, I would have to tip my hat to the gentlemen that work at the airport, because these guys, man, I'm telling you, I had no idea how hard these guys work. And if you guys ever see an airport employee or a gate agent or a ramp and baggage handler, like, I think you guys should buy them a coffee or get them a water bottle or something, because
Here's $20.
Because seriously, man, they are some of the hardest workers. Like, I remember we were in this place called the Dungeon, right? It's the baggage room where all the bags come down from upstairs, 100-pound plus bags. Sometimes you're loading up into these international containers, right? So it can get loaded up into a vehicle or into a plane, and then you go out and you have those little carts. That was my favorite part of the job, actually, at the time.
Driving
it's like a go-kart. It's like being
That's
Mario
what
Kart.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, those things look like so
They
much fun.
are
and I want to
fast
drive.
as well. They're pretty
How
quick.
fast are they?
They were pretty, man, you were able to go up to like 30 miles an hour in an airport near airplanes, which is crazy, right? So it's like, and it's open air and you feel the wind and it just feels good to get out there on a hot day. So getting into aircrafts and actually loading up those planes like Tetris, it's like I saw the airline industry from a completely different perspective, which I would have never seen from before. So I already knew everything about revenue management, project management, even getting into in-flight and the inside of the airplane, but now I was learning underneath the airplane and actually in the belly as well. So we would also push planes out, bring planes in, but there was a really, really near-death experience that happened at the airport. So I almost got crushed by a container. So instead of going in, we had a couple of new people on the job. The safety latches failed and the container came out. It was less than 2 arms length away from me, and I couldn't hear for 2 minutes. It was that loud of a bang where it felt like my eardrums ruptured. So I thought I might have had permanent hear loss. Luckily, it was temporary. And when that happened, it just kind of woke me up. It was a near-death experience. So like I was saying before, even getting to Hawaii was difficult, right? So sorry to go back and forth, but I did a lot of, even while I was working at corporate, paying off my bills and loans, I started doing Ubering on the side, right? And like Ubering, and I would talk to all my guests and my riders, and we would always talk about Hawaii, because they're like, what are you doing? Why do you do Uber? Things of that sort. Like, I'm moving to Hawaii, and this is why.
Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the craziest thing, because one of the riders that got into my car, she was the mother of the guy who owns the company here called Try Scuba Diving. his name is Mike, with Try Scuba Diving, and he's got locations in Puerto Rico and all around the world. And she connected me with this guy, which I didn't even know, and they were like, I basically had a job before even moving here if I wanted it, right? Would try scuba diving. But I'm like, that's kind of not in my industry, it's the opposite. But I really appreciate it.
I work with planes, not
Right.
Not under the water.
Exactly. No, but it was a really kind thing to do. And then, like I said, people would really encourage you. It was really cool to see like how motivated people would get. And they're like, wow, we wish you the best, you know, and like they would just, they would be amazing about it. So from that, coming to Hawaii, I would say like literally $500 cash flow positive at the time, right? Like paying off my bills, paying off student loans, getting out of debt, coming here with a car, $500. And
so did you import your car here?
I did. So I drove it from Texas all the way to Long Beach, California.
Okay.
At the time it was, I think it was $1,100.
Don't mind me asking, what car was it?
It was a Kia Niro. So I had a hybrid because I was doing Uber, and I was like, hey, worst case is I'll do Uber as well on the side while I'm going to flight school. So in a sense, I was life hacking. I was actually going to write a book about this because I stayed at a hostel, right? So a hostel, for a lot of people that you don't know, like for a lot of you that don't know about hostels, is it's going to be more budget friendly for travelers. International travelers from all around the world will stay at these locations, and you'll have shared dormitories, you have private rooms, semi-private rooms, and then fully like one-bedroom suites, kind of like the ones you have at hotels, similar to the one we're here at right now. And there I was doing work trade, so it's like all in exchange for my time, right? So working in exchange for a couple of hours, I had a free bed, free place to stay, and I would meet travelers from all around the world. And I actually met some flight attendants, pilots, doctors, lawyers, engineers, people from all walks of life. And then I was staying for free, rent-free. I was flying for free because I worked for Delta. And then I was getting my hours in. And then I was doing Uber a little bit on the side to continue to pay as much as I could for my flight courses at the time. So when that accident happened, to go back to the airport now, all of that kind of became questionable, right? In my mind, I was like, is this really worth it? Is it worth my life to risk and to do what I'm doing right now for the company? And I highly recommend Delta Airlines. I love Delta. They're one of the best airlines out there. And
when we flew in from, was it United? From Atlanta to San Francisco. That wasn't my worst flight ever, but it wasn't comfortable. And usually I fly Delta.
So you have like, you're used to a higher level of standard, right? Mm-hmm. So still love
At least
the
it
company.
wasn't Spirit.
Yeah, Spirit, and even, I mean, Southwest has really picked up their game as well. You know, I flew Southwest a couple of times between the islands, and they've got brand new airplanes. Like, it's nice, it's comfortable, service is good. But yeah, like I said, Delta was different, and I flew on quite a few airlines throughout my journey. I flew on Emirates, Etihad, Turkish, Singapore Airlines, Korean Airlines, Virgin Atlantic. Virgin Atlantic, like the Virgin industry, one of the best airlines, I would say, as well. So Delta, Virgin, and Emirates. I got to fly on an A380, which is one of my dream airplanes. I wanted to pilot one of those guys at one point. It was one of those double-decker airplanes. You got, a walking bar, like you can walk to a bar. You've got suites, things of that sort. And then every person, even in the back of the plane, would get a hot towel, as much food as they want. Like, you can get meals and snacks, and you've got these screens that can show you camera points from the top of the tail, underneath the airplane, on the wings. It was just a completely different experience than any American airline that I've traveled on, So that was a cool thing to experience as well. And so like I said, after that near-death experience, a flip just kind of switched. I had met my business partner, who was one of the original owners of the hostel. Mm-hmm. And we worked on a couple of different projects together. So more real estate related, things of that sort.
What was your first, I guess, obviously you met your business partner.
Right.
What was the first kind of he wants to bring you on with this and go from there? He
saw my work ethic, so how you do one thing is how you do everything. So from doing the smallest thing, like from sweeping to wiping things down to the way you make a bed and the base level things, to the way you do laundry, to the way you interact with guests and customers and talk about the company when no one is there. So you basically, how you behave and act when no one is watching you is a big factor for a lot of people, right? So fortunately enough, the funniest thing is one time he randomly saw the camera and a guest was trying to tip me $20, and I refused it. And I was like, just out of respect, I was like, it's okay, man. Seriously, like, it's my pleasure to work with you and help you. If you could just help us with a review, like an honest review instead. And like, that was one of the main things that stuck in his head. And he's like, dude, I know you're an honest person. There's a couple of projects that we're working on. It's like, this is something you would be interested in. And they were small little things, you know? But that grew into a much larger opportunity throughout the years. And we worked together on a couple of different deals. And then eventually, I never wanted to be a manager of a hostel, but that opportunity came. And I was like, you know what? I'm kind of lost at this point. I don't really know what's going on.
So you took it on?
I actually left the hostel, and I managed an Airbnb, and I actually worked in this building with Mark. He has a couple hundred Airbnbs on the island. So I was doing more of a real estate type of property management thing for a bit. So this is a little bit of a gap. And I was the last person in. The laws changed for Airbnb here, and we went from about 10,000 Airbnbs to about, I think, almost 1,000 Airbnbs for permitting, right?
Yep.
Everything else has to be in resort zoning, similar to this area. Anything outside of that resort zone has to be properly permitted, because of course the state of Hawaii deserves to get tax money, things of that sort. So they lost a couple hundred properties, and since I was the last one in, I was the first one out.
Yep.
And I had never lost a job before in my life. Never been let go in my life, ever. So that was a big wake-up call for me as well. So near-death experience, and then wake-up call with losing the job in Hawaii after moving over here with everything, right? So when that happened, it really kind of shook me. You know, luckily I had a friend named Tom, who I told you about. He's a gentleman I met on the plane going to Japan that one time, whose wedding I randomly attended that one day. And
like that
I called my buddy Tom, because I was like, I have no one. You know, all my family's back at home. I'm not going to worry them with this stuff. And Tom took me out, man. We had motorcycles, so we went out on a motorcycle ride. Dude bought me dinner. He's like, you should probably save your money. Yeah, right? And the one thing that never crossed my mind was unemployment. You know, he told me to apply for unemployment stuff. I was like, I don't need it. It's not something I'm going to do. You know, I don't want to be comfortable.
Did you feel like if you went for unemployment, that's like your lowest of lows, and like
I think
you would
so.
feel like
Yeah.
I don't want to say handout, because I'm the same way. I don't like handouts.
Yeah. I feel like it's not, for me personally, you know, if you have a family and something like that happens, understandable, do it, take care of your kids. But if you're a single strong person, like you know, like similar to ourselves, where it's like, hey, you can work, you can find a job, you can contribute to society, you should do your absolute best to do so, right?
Absolutely.
So the funny thing is, like I said, I ended up having a meeting, and I got a bartending gig temporarily at Hotel La Croix.
Oh.
And now who my business partner is, he was a managing partner at that hotel, which I didn't know about. So he walked in after I left the hostel, and he was like, Zain? And I'm like, yeah, dude, what's up? And we started talking, and he's like, dude, what are you up to nowadays? And I'm like, yeah, I'm bartending here part-time, doing this and that. And a position opened up, so a management position at the hostel. And I was like, he was like, dude, you gotta come. Like, he's like, you can, because at that point I was, this was right before the split for going into continuing the airline industry, like before I actually quit Delta. So I was still doing that.
You're still doing that and bartending?
And bartending, yeah. So at this point, he's like, dude, he was being really, really open with me. So he really taught me to be open-minded, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey, yeah, this is how it's going. It's not going too well with the airline. I almost died. And he's like, Zain, you can work for the airline industry, maybe become a pilot, and maybe in 10 years you could maybe make $250,000 a year, right? And then you're working your way up, and that's if there's not other factors like other things happening in the world, like COVID, for example, right? He's like, or you can get into real estate and hospitality management with me. I'll mentor you, and maybe in about 10 years you can own your own small airline if you want, right? That's the highest you could probably go to, right? Or something even higher, right? And I was like, whoa, like, or at least own your own small Cessna or whatever else, right? And I was like, whoa, you're right. I need to dream bigger, man. I've been dreaming pretty small. I've been pretty down here, right? And I was like, you know what? You're right. So literally 2 days later, I ended up leaving Delta, which was one of the most difficult decisions of my life. And because I was so used to flying for free, going whenever I wanted, having that freedom, even though there wasn't much money involved with it, just having that freedom to be able to go and travel the world whenever I wanted to was pretty nice.
It's very nice.
It's really difficult to give up.
What was like the final, like, how I view things is I make a pros and cons list in my head, or I write them down, or I talk with people about it.
Yeah.
I'll talk to my mom, talk to my dad, I'll get their opinion on it, talk to my sisters.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I need your opinion on this.
Yeah.
You guys know me the best. Here's my pros, here's my cons. Here's the situation. What do you guys think?
Right. I didn't do any of that. So I just thought about it. I was like, it was a brief, split second decision. I felt like in the airport after that near-death experience, it felt similar to that drowning effect. I felt like I was kind of underwater, and I was like, do I really belong here? Should I really do this? And then the words of my friend and mentor kind of went through my mind, and they were like, you should dream bigger. You can do more, right?
Do better.
And then when I lost that job, like I said, with the real estate office, that was another boost. It was like, hey, I don't think I can work for someone else for the rest of my life. That was the actual final decision, was like losing that job. And then, because that was one of my main factors of income. Like I stopped doing Uber and all this stuff, and then I was doing that, and I was doing Delta, and I was going to flight school at that point. And I left the hostel, so I was paying rent at that point, right? So when that happened, I was like, oh, what am I going to do now, right? So that was the point where it was like, okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and put in my notice. I gave them 2 weeks, and that was it, man. It was, once again, one of the most difficult things. Leaving a 5-year career, going from corporate to baggage and ramp handling, try to do become a pilot with a commercial airline. Like I said, it's a big thing. But now, if I look at it, I would not change a single thing. Even getting let go at the real estate company.
I was going to ask you, if you could go back in time to your younger self,
yeah,
would you change a single thing about it? Or do you feel like it's all just a lesson in life too?
I think it's all a lesson in life, man. It's like I wouldn't change a single thing. Like I am very grateful, and I feel blessed to be where I am now. Because from where I was to where I am now, like I said, there's leaps and bounds. And even throughout COVID, which was one of the most difficult parts of my life, I would say, because being in hospitality during COVID in Hawaii was almost certain death in a way, almost certain bankruptcy in a way as well, because the state of Hawaii, with SBA loans, things of that sort, we really didn't get much assistance at all. And I had what I completely forgot about, by the way, that I realized during COVID was my 401k, right, for everything that I've worked for so far, right? So with Delta, with all my previous my previous companies, so I had a good amount of money that I completely forgot about that I had. And so there was an opportunity. So while I was a manager for the hostel company, the Beach Boutique Hostel right around the corner, the opportunity came right before COVID. It's like, hey, we have a major investor and partner leaving. He's going to cash out. He's going to go to Korea. There's this opportunity. Is this something you want to be interested in? And literally, without a hesitation, I was like 100% yes, because I still am that passionate about it, because I love meeting travelers. I love traveling myself, going and staying in other properties and other hostels. And the difference between a hostel and Airbnb and, for say, a hotel is the social and community aspect. There's always something to do. You always meet like-minded travelers that are on the same wavelength as you, I would say. So during COVID, I had that opportunity right before COVID, which I think is the reason why he left, because our previous partner, I think he kind of smelled something in the air, or he was told a few different things. This gentleman is like I would say he's probably a billionaire. He's got so many properties all throughout Korea, all throughout Hawaii, things of that sort. So he wanted to back out and kind of work on a couple of different projects, which we understood. So at that point, I invested everything. I had every single penny, basically. Everything I had, I put into the company. And then COVID happened. So yeah, it was a very, very difficult time, man. I'm talking about, I did a lot of sweat equity as well for equity, put in my life savings, and I stayed open every single day. I worked every single day for 2+ years. I had to let everybody go at that point to save costs, because they would make more on unemployment, so it didn't make sense to...
And just cut them in.
Yeah, exactly. So this was better for everyone, and then they would make a decent, like I said, almost double actually what you were able to afford them as a business on unemployment, which didn't make sense, but I was like, hey, take some time, enjoy yourselves, right? So for 2 years, it was bottlenecked, like everything stopped. The streets here were completely empty. It was the wildest thing to see. And there was zero traffic. There was no one on the beach because it was basically essential industry travel only. So you can only we had curfews at one point. It was a really crazy time. So luckily, me being in hospitality, we were essential workers, right? So we're able to help quarantine people, things of that sort. So I converted the hostel at that time into not a full quarantine facility, but kind of like a refuge for travelers that were stuck, that could stay affordably. And then we started converting our rooms into areas of where people could quarantine. But at that time, you had to quarantine for 14 days. Period.
I remember.
Zero exceptions. So everyone coming in, there were so many people I noticed that came in and were refused. They couldn't make the 14 days, or they couldn't fulfill the commitment, and they would either get fined or they would get sent back to wherever they were coming from. And it was a really, really wild time to see. And we, like I said, not only did we survive, I was delivering people's foods. I was like, hey, Instacart, do this. They'll drop your food off here. I'll deliver it up to your room. You don't have to come out. You can open the door, get some fresh air, but you can't step out. You can't get a key. And sometimes people went crazy. At one point, there was a gentleman that came out of his room with a knife in hand. And I got a call from a neighbor. And I've never experienced this in my life. And like I said, this is one of the craziest things. And he was a very nice gentleman. Like, he was very put together when he first checked in. But I think he was on his 12th day. He had 2 days left. And that solitary confinement broke him, right? So he came out of the door like he was cooking in the room, but he came out of the door with a knife. And I got a call from our neighbor, and they're like, hey, man, you got someone on the second floor with a knife. And I'm like, wait, what? So I'm like, I'm not even thinking, right? I'm like going up there, and I'm like, I call the police. I'm like, hey, we believe someone's broken quarantine, may have a knife. Gotta go try to calm him down. Not thinking about anything, right? So I go up there, and I see him around the corner. And it's not like he's gonna actually
like stab,
but he was holding it in a manner that looked pretty intense, right? Threatening. So I'll just call him John, for instance. I'm not going to give away any personal identity information. But I'm like, hey, John, everything okay, man? Let's put the knife down. What's going on? You're supposed to be in your room. You can't be outside. So, and he immediately was like, as soon as he saw me, he put it down. And I was like, here, let me grab that from you. So he gave me the knife. We go into his room. Of course, everyone has masks. I'm like, hey, if you could take a seat there. And I'm like kind of going through, checking to see if there's any more weapons or anything before the police get there. And I'm like, okay, everything is good. I'm like, John, you just broke quarantine.
Could stay here another 14 days.
Yeah, so no, at that point, it's like you have to either do another 14 days or you get fined or you get sent back. So he chose to not do another 14 days. So the police came, they took him. I don't know what happened after that. But like I said, wild, wild west, the wild, wild times of COVID land, right? And then, like I said, we didn't close for even a single day. So
that's insane.
We were very, very fortunate enough to not have any positive cases. Invested in a temperature machine that would auto-sense your temperature as soon as you walk in through the door. So you just walk in.
Very nice.
Yeah, it senses your temperature, and then it would say normal or abnormal temperature. And then at that point, we kind of developed this little method of getting people in and out as needed. So, and I got tested basically every single month. And it was a really interesting time, like I said. And then it started slowly going back to normal in actually late 2022 or mid 2022.
Yeah, I would say that's when everything started to go back to normalcy.
Yeah. And then we knew that though, so it's like we didn't know how long COVID would last. So that's the thing. It's like my business partner and I, we were talking about it. It's like, hey, should we shut down, save costs? Because just our electrical bill here for 2 properties is over $15,000 a month. So that is to be able to keep the lights on with no business coming in and thousands of cancellations, it's a whole nother thing, right? And I was like, let's pivot. We'll cater to digital nomads and basically people that are able to work remote. And luckily that blew up. So many people were getting remote working jobs, coming over. And then I was renting out basically our semi-private rooms on a month-to-month basis and advertising on Facebook and even renting out bunk beds at one point, like for about $600 per bed. But you had to have, at that point, it was a 4-person limit per room. And then it turned into vaccination, and then you had to be vaccinated in order to be in a dorm. Same thing with private rooms. If you come onto our property, you have to be vaccinated, things of that sort. And then eventually, like I said, we started going back into short term, slowly phased out. And that's what basically saved us, is pivoting. But we came close to double-digit days of closing down. It was actually a pretty scary thing. And like I said, unfortunately, the state of Hawaii really, they did not assist us at all. Like for actual small businesses, over 900 businesses went out of business permanently. In Honolulu alone. I'm not sure about the other islands or anywhere else. Just here in Honolulu. Some places that were here for 30 plus years. And like I said, the state of Hawaii, unfortunately, I think the best they were able to offer us was like a $15,000 loan, dollar loan, and I'm like, that barely covers our electrical costs. And I got to pay back. Yeah, so I'm like, you know what? No, I don't think we're gonna actually even take any money from the state of Hawaii. So, but we not only did we survive, but we thrived. So we had another opportunity come up during COVID, which was another property. So we kind of doubled down because we knew that it would be a waterfall effect, right? So when people start coming back and traveling, first, people will have airline credits from my airline experience, right? Hey, those are expiring in about a year to 2 years max, right?
You better start using them.
People are going to need to use them. Second, where are they going to go first? Where do travelers go first, right? When the United States first starts opening up, they're going to go to Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, California, Florida. These 5 areas are really the only places you can go because international traveler will still pretty heavily limited. And that's exactly what happened. We had a waterfall effect come, and then all of a sudden, literally overnight, we had, I would say, hundreds of reservations coming in again, right? Because we were one of the best. We are still one of the best rated in all of Hawaii.
Are the best.
Yeah, we are the best in all of Hawaii. And then, all of a sudden it was just like, whoa, this is insane. You would not expect anything like that to happen, right? And we've been fully booked since, man. It's been pretty crazy, just nonstop. And, we don't have any complaints. But now we've got 4 properties. I've got my realtors looking in Maui, Big Island, Kauai. Unfortunately, the fires just happened in Maui, so I think we're gonna hold off on that and contribute in any way we can as far as helping with the rebuild. So we may end up going to Big Island first, then Kauai, then Maui last now. But the goal is New Zealand, Australia, Southeast Asia. World domination is the plan, So
I like it.
Yeah. With our brand, which is Alo is our brand, and you already know about the Beach Boutique Hostel, but there's also Honu Waikiki now on the other side of Waikiki.
On the other side of it.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, tell me more about the properties and Turo and how you got started with that.
Yeah, man. So Turo was like, once again, it was kind of like a spur of the moment type of thing. Like I had and still do have a 2014 Kia Soul, which I just put on because my customers were asking for rental cars like nonstop. There was a crazy rental car shortage. I don't know if you know this, but when the chip shortage happened and
that's when
prices skyrocketed, right? When all that stuff happened, rental cars became impossible to get. Some of them were like $500 per day, which was insane.
That's a car payment.
Right.
That's a car payment.
That is a car payment, right?
For an entire month.
Per day. That was a daily rate, which was insane. And people were paying that, which was insane. But I was like, you know what? I've got budget travelers that are here to experience Hawaii that can't afford this, right? So I first put my car on at a very affordable rate. I would say like $50 a day, and then they would add on insurance and stuff like that. And it got booked up for since I was the only one pricing affordably, it got booked up for literally like 2 months straight. And I was like, whoa, like this is crazy.
Just on the Soul?
Yeah.
How much were you making? So if you break it down, like insurance
and everything,
maintenance, things like that.
Yeah, so I would say, dude, it almost came out to, after expenses and everything, almost about $2,500.
That's just pure profit?
That was after expenses, but that's if you're renting it out, like straight. 0 days in between, it was like fully booked up, and that's after expenses and taxes are separately calculated as well. So, but then after that happened, bookings went down, right? So I only started renting it out. I limited my days as well. I wasn't doing everyday rentals.
Did you have like another car on the side, or
I ended up buying a couple more cars.
Yeah,
which, I feel like I have a car problem now. So, yeah, I had
I'm in the same boat as you.
Yeah, I had a 2014 Kia Soul, or still do, and then I got the 2019 Ford Mustang, which you rented.
That's what I'm renting at the moment.
Yeah. So, convertible is a big thing, because when I went over to a couple of different islands and when I first experienced the convertible experience, it's completely different.
It is a whole new ballgame. I got in a convertible, I popped it down, I was like, I need this back home.
Yes.
I want this back home.
You'll get sold on it, man. And like I said, if you live in a beautiful place like Hawaii, it's like, that is one of the only ways to really roll, right? So I rented I did a day trip to Maui, and I ended up renting a convertible. And I was like, I've never experienced this before. I've driven motorcycles, and that's the feeling I got. I was like, it's basically the feeling of riding a motorcycle, but in a vehicle, in a car, right? And I rode motorcycles for 10 plus years. And so from there, I was like, you know what? I got a pretty good deal on this. Then the dealer called me, and he's like, hey man, I got another convertible if you want it. And I got pretty good deals on both of them. So one's a silver and one's a 2020 red one. And so I got that. And so I ended up getting, basically, I've got 3 Mustangs right now. And
2019.
Yeah, one 2019, 2 2020s, and then the Kia Soul, which I'll probably slowly phase out. And to be honest, like, I did that on a spur of a moment. It doesn't make sense to do Turo unless there's two things. Unless you are not going to use your primary car and it's just sitting around when you're at work, things of that sort, then it makes sense to make passive income, supplement your income on the side. But if you're going to do Turo full time, I would say you're not going to really start becoming profitable until you at least have 3 to 4 cars. And that's when you're going to start seeing more profit, right? But Turo does take quite a heavy fees as well. So it depends on the plan that you choose, things of that sort. So my eventual goal was an ecosystem for my customers from hospitality to be able to easily rent a car at the front desk. It's like, hey, once I have, and that's what I'm working towards right now. So once I have X amount of rentals, I can show this to the commercial insurance agency and say, hey, I want commercial insurance on all my vehicles because I'm renting them out directly from my other business. So we're almost there, actually. We're still not quite there yet.
Just trying to push over that line.
Right, exactly. And when that happens, of course, profits will slightly increase as well, but the convenience factors for our customers becomes way easier, right? So it's like, you don't have to drive all the way to the airport or even find a Turo around the block or somewhere else. It's like, you scan a barcode, it shows you the price. You can split it with our group chat as well, which is another thing. So we have a digital group chat for all of our properties where all of our guests get together, people from all around the world, like, hey, let's go for sunset, happy hours, barbecues, surfing, splitting Ubers, splitting rental cars, things of that sort. So they'll split one Mustang 4 ways, like let's say it's $100 a day, $25 per person, and then they go out and have an amazing time in Hawaii with the top down, and like I said, both parties benefit from that as well. So that's the goal. And I'm technically, like, once again, with insurance, charging a little bit more than what I would, but that evens it out because you're splitting the cost there.
Cost of it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where we are with Turo. As far as the properties, we've got the Beach Boutique Hostel here, 2 adjacent properties, and you'll kind of see our method and branding as far as Alo. You'll see the upcycled and wooden structures and things that we do. So you can convert something like a very boring cinder block building into kind of almost like a piece of art. And we work with local artists.
I noticed the building that you showed me. I was like, this does not feel like a typical hostel that I've seen online. It feels more like a home. Yeah. In a sense. It's like I could live here.
Yeah. Absolutely. So like I said, we do reinvest quite a bit back into our properties, back into our people. And that's a big thing is servant leadership as well, right? Take care of your people and take care of our customers. Our customers take care of us. That's something I learned at Delta, actually. It's one of their 4 pillars. So that's something that really stuck with me. And because of that, as you said, you've noticed our reviews for our properties. We have people that are kind enough to help us out with honest reviews. And yeah, we're the best rated in all of Hawaii, and we're going to keep pushing and keep moving forward and keep growing. So right now we're at four commercial properties in Oahu. Also working on a bar on the other side next to my other property. So that's something, it's still a little confidential because we're still closing and doing a couple of different things.
That's I'll come back in like a couple months and I'll ask you again.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure, we'll have that. So the ecosystem, or my vision is, once again, hospitality for hostels, right? We've got rental properties as well. Rental cars for our guests. Surfboard shop, which you'll see later on as well. We have a cafe and health bar off of Seaside in Kahio called Alo Health Bar and Cafe. And we're going to be working on a bar as well. That's going to be more of a traveler's bar. So all sorts of different games, live music, dance floor, beer pong, darts, pool tables. Like, it's going to be a cool spot. And that'll be on the other side of Waikiki, closer to the convention center as well, like right in the beginning of the strip.
That'll be cool to see.
Yeah, man. So excited for what the future holds.
I can't wait to see what the future holds. Okay, couple questions.
Yeah.
I think you already mentioned to me, I think you said that you're 30, right?
Yeah, 30.
So I'm 22.
Yeah.
I'll be 30 in about a month.
Nice.
If you were to give me any piece of advice in life or in general, what would you give someone like me or anybody?
Yeah. Like I said, the wake-up factor. You know, I think a lot of people wait to wake up until something dramatic happens to them, right? It's near-death experience or a panic attack or something of that sort. I think if you really do what you're passionate about, you really don't work another day in your life. Like, I work 7 days a week. I've not had any days off in the past 3+ years. But I don't know if you can notice that or not, right? It's like, I'm not...
I was going to say, I was going to ask you, like, how many, like, do you take vacation days?
I don't, man. I really don't, because, I mean, first, I live in paradise, right?
Paradise.
So if I do need to take a little bit of time off, I can jump in the water or things of that sort. And that's the benefit as well. Now, this may be a little not confrontational, but yeah. In a sense, it's like, I truly believe us as human beings, or just us as Americans, need to travel more. That's a big thing.
I have noticed that, and like I said, I went on a cruise in December, and it really opened up my eyes to being like, I want to do this more, because I met friends, someone from Maryland, someone from Phoenix, Arizona, someone from Mexico City, someone from Cyprus was there in the group as well, and like,
were they from the Greek side, the Turkish side, or the NATO side? Because Cyprus is divided into like 3 different countries.
Oh, you're right. Cyprus. But that, just talking to them about like their experiences in life, and like, obviously from the 2 friends that, like, there was 5 of us in the group, on the boat, but like 3 of us are American.
Right.
One is from Mexico, and then she's from Cyprus, and so like it was fun, or like hearing their side of everything.
Right.
And like being like, and I saw different islands as well, and I was like, I need to travel more. I need to visit more places, and that's why I'm happy that I'm here.
Yes, that's the way to do it, man. Like I said, it really opens up your mind. And that's another thing, is like, if I didn't travel, I think I would still be in Texas, because you're really comfortable, right? So with family and friends and everything else, it's like, you don't want to leave certain communities because you'd be afraid, because you don't know where the unknown would take you, right? And I think I could be a pretty good example of that. It's like leaving that community, leaving that life. I think if I would have stayed, I would still be with Delta. I would probably be a 30+ year employee. You know, even though I traveled a lot, it opened up my mind. And like I said, you will be able to relate with so many more people. And I think that should be a little bit more built into the human, or the American culture. Because if you look at life, right, if you look at all these other travelers, like Australians, Canadians, Germans, people from all around the world, they take the time to take a gap year to go find themselves, right? So go explore, and after high school, and then they come back and they actually know what they're passionate about and what they actually want to do with their lives, versus us with the American dream. High school, college, job, marriage, have kids, pay bills, die, right? It's unfortunate, but that's kind of what we're looking forward to, right? So, and that's why I think there's so many higher levels of depression and suicide in the United States. Like, I think all of this can be reduced if people would just travel. Take a year, don't just go to school and don't just go to a university because your parents want you to, or because your grandmother wants you to, or just for that piece of paper, right? It's like, if you're actually going to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, something like a specialist, go do it. You're going to need school. But if you don't, I would much rather you invest those funds and not do what I did and get into student loan debt and what other people do, right? Instead, invest that in yourself. Invest that in your time, into your business, like what you're doing here. Like I said, I'm stoked, dude. That's why I agreed to do the podcast, because
I'm not gonna lie. When I asked you, I get like very nervous.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure if you noticed, like, I'm a very calm, chill. Yeah. I try to be very easygoing. Mm-hmm. But with that, I was in much more of my own pocket, like you said, very comfortable, not wanting to talk to people. Like, I'll say hi to people.
Right.
Like, I think out of me and my sisters, I'm the least shy one.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I lied. One of my sisters is more
outgoing.
More outgoing, but, like, I'm the second one of the kids. And, like, it was during COVID that I was like, I don't want to, like...
Stay where you were, basically.
Stay where I was, and I was like, man. And, like, I listened to audiobooks. It's like, I need to get out more. And so when I met you, I was like, just ask him. Just straight up ask him if he wants to do it. What's the worst that you can say is no.
Exactly. That's the thing. No matter what it is, like, if it's a business deal, if it's asking a girl out, it's, you know, whatever it is, it's like, if you don't take the chance, you don't know, like, you're leaving so much on the table, right? So versus if you just say, hey, you know what? Screw it. Let me see. The worst that can happen is a no, and then I'm going to learn from that. And another step further, once you basically go through that rejection, because it will happen eventually, right? And you build up the callus to go through, right? And it's like, hey, now you can just go literally talk to anyone, right? It's like, hey, and you're going to start building a brand and a name for yourself where people are going to want to come onto your podcast. You don't have to actually reach out to people. But all that happens through rejection and failure. People are so afraid of that, and that's another thing. It's kind of built into our society to not fail, right? When you look at school, high school, middle school, you're taught to raise your hand. You're taught to get permission. You're taught to not fail, right? If you get a bad grade, you're going to get into trouble with your parents. But how do we learn how to walk? How do we learn how to run? How do we learn? Yeah, you learn through failure. And look at all these amazing entrepreneurs, millionaires, and billionaires. They tell you that's the number one thing is failure. Learn from your mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes, and but don't be afraid of failure. And I would say that's another word of wisdom for you. At a young age, coming up, travel, learn from failure. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to be rejected as well. That's another big thing. And continue to do what you're doing. That's a big thing.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I did make some questions.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see. I'll start with the one that I generally ask people.
Yeah.
Like anybody. What was the most painful thing that you have felt that wasn't physical pain?
Painful thing that I felt that wasn't physical pain. Okay, so this is going to be a little wild, but I would say it's similar to physical pain, but not really. So this is a pretty crazy story.
Okay.
So, at the hostel, in hospitality, I met this person, and there was a point in my life where I really started listening to small things and like small signs, and just kind of kept an eye out for them, right? So this gentleman walked into my life through hospitality, and he was telling me about this meditation temple in Hawaii that's not too far away. And I can't name it because it is pretty exclusive, and you have to get invited to go there. And just out of respect to the temple and for them to not, get too disturbed. I asked him about it. We had a very similar goal and a very similar mindset, and he was actually doing a live-in program there at a time. And he told me it was one of the most difficult things he's ever done in his life. And that really caught my attention because I was like, he was like, not physically, mentally. It's a very difficult thing to do and a very difficult place to be. And I was like, like, you've got me curious. Like, I kind of want to do this. I kind of want to go experience this. So since he was a member and he was accepted well before, he was able to vouch for me. And I was given an opportunity to go to this meditation temple on the island of Oahu. And it's not a normal place. It's traditional Japanese meditation. It's a form of that is called Zazen. So some people would consider it brutal. Other people would consider it just like a mind toughening type of meditation. It's where you sit cross-legged and in Zazen, and you cannot move for 45 minutes once you have started the meditation. So no matter what happens in the external world, no matter if your eye is itching, your nose is itching, if your leg is on fire, if you're in any type of pain, you cannot move. And it's a very exclusive place, like I said. So it's very strict. So as soon as I walked in, people were getting yelled at, like in a way. And some people would think like, oh, that's kind of like a mental torture type of place. It sounds weird. It sounds odd, but you have to put your cushion down in a certain way. It has to face a certain way, and you have to really pay attention to these small, minute little details. Otherwise, you would get yelled at. And if you can't handle that, the door is open. You don't have to be here.
Just leave at that point.
You could leave, but then you could never come back. So that's the thing. It's like it was a very humbling experience for me, and I started going there just to kind of see, what type of, basically how strong my mind was at that point, right? So it's like, did I take this personally? Which I did not. So in the original class that was there was only 5 of us. And the initial meditation was only 25 minutes, not 45 minutes. And even those 25 minutes standing in one place, sitting in one place, cross-legged, without moving, was a very difficult thing to do. It was one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life. And I've done some hard stuff as well. But the second time I went back, the next day, there was only 2 of us. So the other 3 chose not to come back, right? Maybe they took it personally. Maybe they were like, this place isn't for me. I don't like being yelled at. And I used to be one of those types of people as well. I was like, I would take things personally. But this, I was like, you know what? I want to learn from this. Let me see what this place has to offer. So the second time I sat down incorrectly, and I pinched a nerve in my leg, which I didn't know until 10 minutes into the meditation. Now, this is only a 25-minute meditation as well. And then the third day, you go with the big boys. You go into the main meditation room with the actual senseis, and like it's a big room with cushions and windows, and it's beautiful. But I'm only here with one other guy, and then the instructor, and my leg is on fire. And I'm trying to do everything I can to avoid the pain, to run away from the pain. Like at one point, like I said, I've been in a motorcycle accident where I almost died, right? And even at that point, you're able to move your body around and kind of make yourself comfortable until you get relief. But when you're in a position where you're not able to move, and I made it up in my mind till I was like, I would rather die than move, right? Because at one point, it felt so painful. It was like a numbing, like a pain that you would get from like a wisdom tooth or something, right? It's completely out of your control. And I felt like running out of the room at one point. It felt unbearable at one point. But you know what? I started talking to myself, and I was like, you know what? Give me more pain. I want as much pain as possible. Let me see how far I can take this. Let me see what the pinnacle is, like how strong I am, right? And when I did that, the pain went away. It was literally, I feel like it was my body, my nerve, telling my mind, hey, you're uncomfortable. You're cutting blood flow. You should probably move your leg so your leg doesn't fall asleep. You're not going to die, but hey, that's why you're in pain, right? So my leg is signaling my mind, and my mind is like, hey, you're in pain. You should probably move, but I can't, right? So I have to work this out in my own mind. And when I acknowledged the pain and I accepted the pain and I asked for more, my mind was like, okay, well, he's fine. He's comfortable. He's not going to die. You're not going to lose your leg. You're okay. And and that, like I said, that taught me so much. And I was able to put that towards a workout that I'll tell you in a little bit as well. But that mental resilience of not giving up because of the pain and pushing through changed my life, I would say. So in those 2 days of meditation, the first 2 days, I felt like I learned more about myself, my mind, and my body than I have in the past 2 years. out on my own, right? Which is insane. And it sounds really crazy as well. But then I read things about David Goggins, and I read his book, Can't Hurt Me. And I'm like, I experienced this. Like, this is crazy, right? This is a Navy SEAL who's like going through and just being an animal and just being a beast. And I experienced this in my own mind, sitting down in a temple, right? In a meditation temple of all places. So during COVID, there weren't many places open. And my friends and I, we still wanted to work out. I've kind of gone off the beaten path. We were working out pretty much every single day during COVID. And we had this, he opened up a rock climbing gym, actually. His name is Devin. He owns High Climb in Kaka'ako. So if you guys want to go rock climbing, you can just go out there.
We got one more day. So.
Yeah, it's got it's an indoor climbing gym. They've got basically bouldering. They've got top rope. They've got weight section, little cafe inside. It's a cool little spot, man. I recommend it. And then you'll be supporting him as well. And he's a great guy. And before that rock climbing gym became what it is, it was an empty warehouse that we were cleaning up. And we were working out there. We didn't have, all the weights were sold out during COVID. I don't know if you know this or not, but
I did.
Dude, everyone became a workout fanatic and all the weights were gone. So we made our own weights out of concrete and rebar and like 45 pound
That's the only way to do it.
Yeah,
That's the only way to do it.
So we're like deadlifting, we're like bench pressing, deadlifting, and the weight's off a little bit as well, right? So you kind of have to balance and stabilize. But we had these crazy circuits that they came up with. And these guys look like GQ models. Like they're insanely in shape, right? So I got invited and I started going. And at one point they were like, hey guys, we're gonna double our workout. That's already pretty crazy, right? We already are dead at the end of this workout. And there's very small minimal stops. You have like literally 10-second stops before the person behind you is coming to this next station, right? So because of that, you have to keep going. So after we finished the first workout, they were like, all right, everyone ready? We're going round 2, second workout. Who's ready? And then everyone is dying. Everyone is just beat up and torn up. And we started. We're like, hey, we got to do this regardless. We said we're going to do it. We're going to do it no matter what, right? So we start. Middle of the workout. Everyone's energy is low. Everyone is dying. No one wants to work out anymore. We're all tired. And in my mind, I thought about the meditation temple. And I was like, you know what? If I can do this and I can get rid of this pain in this way, I wonder what else I could do in my mind, right? So to my mind, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm not just going to double this workout. I'm going to do 100 of these workouts. Like literally, I believed it in my mind. I was like, I will do 100 of these workouts or I will die. And that's it. That's it. These are the only 2 options. Dude, my body produced adrenaline, like all sorts of chemicals like that, like endorphins, adrenaline, it was like a fight or flight moment that I activated within myself in that moment in time. Yes. And I took off and I'm running back and forth in this gym. I'm lifting weights.
I bet all the guys are just like,
dude, I'm destroying these guys. And they're...
What did Zain take before he...
Yes, no, and they're in so much better shape. And then my buddies come up and they're like, dude, what did you take? Like, did you take drugs? Like, are you on coke or something? Like, it's like, they're like, what is your secret? And I was like, the corniest thing. I was like, guys, it's just your mindset. That's all I said. And then I was like, if you're really interested, let me know. This is what I learned. And then I told the guys and they were blown away. They're like, dude, that's insane. And then when I read David Goggins' book, and I was like, dude, this is what he does. Like, this is insane. It's like on a completely different level, but he is able to, in a way, kind of work through that pain. It's not a physical pain, right? But push through and activate that flight or fight. Activate that flight or flight moment in your body. And dude, just like I said, the human limitations, when you think about it, women, like mothers, right? Mm-hmm. That may have a child trapped under a car, and you hear these crazy stories of them lifting the car up. And it's like, these types of things I used to think were myths or like, hey, some freak of nature accidents. But after experiencing that on such a small level, I was like, wow, like we really have so much potential, and there's so much that we leave on the table. So, it's pretty wild. Your mindset is crazy. And I also don't believe, I used to be depressed. I used to go I think everyone gets into depression every now and then, but I stopped believing in it. And I just work so much that I really don't have time to be sad or to feel depressed. And it's like when you find what you love and you like find your calling in life in a way, or you find what you're passionate about, I don't think you'll be depressed. I think if you're depressed, you're in a place in your life where you should probably make some changes, you know? But yeah, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
I was gonna say, I had the same, like, what you did.
Yeah.
I've been a martial arts instructor for,
God,
7-8 years.
What was it, sorry?
7-8 years. I started working when I was like 15.
For what, sorry?
Martial arts.
Martial arts.
Taekwondo.
Taekwondo. Nice.
Taekwondo.
Dude, that's awesome.
And so when I was younger, I'd always be depressed.
Yeah.
Didn't know what I wanted to do in life.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started working on my car, my 73 Charger.
Ooh, beautiful car.
I'll show you a picture of it in just a moment, in some videos.
Absolutely.
But I started doing that, and I started working on my daily as well. And I was like, is this something I really like doing? Small things, oil changes, can do. Brakes, I can do.
Yep.
I even mentioned to him downstairs, I was like, your brakes are almost gone. Like, it's squeaking. I could do that for you. And give me tools and give me an hour, and I'll do it.
Yeah, dude. Heck yeah, man. No, you're on vacation. I told him, I think Tim mentioned that, and I was like, I appreciate you letting me know because a lot of people don't, and I haven't, like, that's...
No, I heard it, and I was like, I should let them know before
I appreciate that, man. So because of that, I already blocked it, and I was like, all right, I'm done.
And I told him, I was like, give me an hour, give me some tools, give me a jack stand, and I'll get it done. Yeah. Just give me the tools, give me, like, a space to work in, because I live at an apartment complex, as you guys know. Yeah. And working there is like, if I can do it there, I can do it anywhere.
Anywhere. Dude, that's awesome, man.
But, let's see. Do we have time for one quick question?
Yeah.
Oh, this will be a quick one. Do you have any horror stories of either the Hostel or Turo?
Hostel or Turo?
Preferably Turo.
Turo.
Any bad renters or...
Honestly, no, man. I've had pretty good people. I don't have any bad stories, luckily, and I want to knock on some wood because I know it will happen eventually, but fortunately, I've been lucky. Now, I've seen some horror stories. You know, I've seen some people that have destroyed cars, or smoked, things of that sort, like severely damaged vehicles and even cracked windshields, things of that sort. And Turo, like I said, I like Turo. They're a great company, but they do side with the customer more often than the actual host. Which is, like I said, it's a little difficult for business, but that's the thing. I wouldn't Turo my personal vehicle that I love, like my baby, like your Charger. If you could, I would never, because people will not take care of it, right? So it's like
friends. I'm just like,
yeah.
Even my own family members, I'm just like, I'll let you drive it. Just I'll have to be in the car.
Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like I'm fortunate enough to not have any horror stories yet. So even with the Hostel, like I said, nothing too crazy. It's just that knife. Like I said, the knife story was
that's it.
That was the closest thing that I would say that where I'm like, I might get stabbed, but I can't have this guy outside of the knife, right? So, and like I said, he complied very easily. So, fortunate there.
Well, do you have anything that you like to add, or?
No, man.
Besides, check out the hostels, check out the rentals. If I could give you 10 stars, I would.
Thank you.
Because you've been very communicative. If I needed anything, very open, text it back or message back within.
You're more than welcome to come back anytime. And like I said,
will absolutely come back.
We are going to the other islands.
I'm talking to my dad about coming back for Christmas. So
do it, man. Absolutely.
I'm going to tell him, okay, we have to stay here. We have to get the Mustang.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I'll take care of you guys, man. You let me know, and we'll get you guys into the Mustang. And we'll probably have other cars by then as well. But Maui, Kauai, Big Island, that's on the list. And hopefully, like I said, later on, you'll see a lot of other exciting things happening as well in the coffee company. Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have anything that you want to shout out besides the hostels, which I'll put everything would be in the description. But besides that, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
I appreciate it, man. Like I said, I respect the hustle. I respect you for asking, because it's difficult to do, right? Once again, you don't know what you're going to get, and I saw myself in you because that's a big thing. And I think what you're doing right now is very impressive, and you should continue to do it. Don't give up. And
that's why I apologize for my janky sound. I'm like,
no, dude, janky or not, that's how you get better.
I was setting up, and I was like, I'm sorry for like all these different cameras. I'm sorry for the DJI mics. I know it looks unprofessional, but like this is all that I have.
Totally cool. I think, like I said, I think that's awesome. And people that you ask in the future as well, like once you show them this and you ask them in the future, they're gonna respect that as well, and they're gonna be like, you know what, you're gonna make them remember like what they went through and how they got to where they are as well. So I think you've got time on your side, man. Don't use that as an excuse, but keep hustling, man. Keep it up. Keep up the great work. And you asked some really great questions as well. So
I appreciate your time and appreciate you talking to me.
Of course. Thank you again, man. Really appreciate it. All right. Yeah, sorry, bud. I kind of ping-ponged there a little bit. Like, when you get started.
I know. It's like...